Hello everybody, a decision has been made. Nikita Mazepin and Haas have split ways, and I wanted to get a video out there and just talk to you because I made a video a couple of days and things have changed dramatically since then. Haas have decided to part ways with Nikita Mazepin with immediate effect. We're no longer going to see the Russian driver in any of the testing that is coming up in the next week or at any of the Grand Prix in 2022, with Gunther Steiner and the Haas team coming out with a statement saying that Haas Formula One team have elected to terminate with immediate effect the title partnership with Uralkali. We knew that was coming anyway because that was taken off of the cars during the Barcelona testing we saw about a week ago. And the driver contract of Nikita Mazepin. As with the rest of the Formula One community, the team is shocked and saddened by the invasion of Ukraine and wishes for a swift and peaceful end to the contract. And Haas came out with that this morning, and Nikita Mazepin did actually backlash a little bit from this. And I think it's a bit weird that, you know, we've come to this situation. I think it was something that we all saw coming, especially with the Uralkali logos being taken off in Barcelona. You know, if you think about it, Formula One drivers are on the grid for many different reasons. Most of them are there because they are the absolute pinnacle of this sport. They are the most talented drivers in the world right now. But other drivers are there because of power and politics and the money that they can bring in as well, or experience that they can bring to the team. There's lots of different deciding factors that comes along with picking a driver for Formula One. And if you think about Nikita Mazepin, for Haas, it was always about that title sponsorship. It was always about the money and keeping the team going and getting them through to this 2022 period. And this was supposed to be the resurgence of Haas, really, wasn't it? This was supposed to be the year that they'd dedicated the last couple of years to getting right. Obviously, in testing, we saw a little bit of a niggle, but actually some really quick pace from them too. And it was looking like maybe this was the season they could turn it all around. But it seems like now that could be a little bit trickier for them. And as I said, it's completely no shock to me that Nikita Mazepin has gone now that the Uralkali sponsorship has gone. He was never good enough. He was improving over the course of the season. He started off the season absolutely atrociously in 2021. And I made a video about halfway through, sort of looking at how much he'd improved over that first sort of 3/4 of the season or so, actually. And he was getting slightly better, but Mick Schumacher was getting substantially better still. And even though Mick Schumacher, you know, didn't have a great season 2, you could still see the potential there. There was no potential, in my opinion, with Nikita Mazepin. And the Uralkali money going, the fact that he had that awful 2021 season, in my opinion, and that you couldn't really see where his future in F1 was going to lie, I think that was why, in the end, Haas have decided to make this decision. And Nikita Mazepin did respond, as I said, and I've got his quote here. He says, "I'm very disappointed to hear that my contract's been terminated. While I understand the difficulties, the ruling from the FIA, plus my ongoing willingness to accept the conditions proposed in order to continue, were completely ignored, and no process was followed in this unilateral step." So it's interesting to know that actually Nikita was willing to accept any terms or conditions that the FIA was going to put forward. He was willing to think about the fact that obviously he was a Russian driver. He wouldn't have been able to race in the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, for instance, and possibly there'll be more countries that come along and put in those requirements too, that you won't be able to hold a Russian license and race in that country. But he was willing to bend a little bit to what the FIA was giving to him. He also said that he's treasured his time in F1 and genuinely hopes that we can all be together again in better times. So he still does have an emphasis, and it's clear that he still sees a future career for himself in Formula One later on down the line. Obviously, once a little bit of the world has kind of cleaned itself up a little bit more. And saying in that, I will come with more information to say in the next coming days. So he still is going to be, you know, giving his opinions on this, and I'm sure we'll hear more from Nikita Mazepin over the next couple of days, especially because Drive to Survive is coming out in less than a week's time now, and I'm really looking forward to watching that live stream with you guys. But at the same time, what are they going to do with all of the Nikita Mazepin footage? It looked like there was going to be a big emphasis on Haas and Nikita Mazepin, Mick Schumacher, similar to 2021 when we saw Romain Grosjean and all of that sort of situation unfolding. It seemed like there was going to be a similar sort of Haas episode looking at those rookies and how they were getting on. Do they still air that? Do they have to change it slightly? How does that work for Netflix in the long term as well? And then the final thing is, who is going to replace Nikita Mazepin? And I made a video on this a couple of days ago, as I said at the beginning, and I sort of stand by a couple of those. I think Fittipaldi is going to come in for the short term. I think that's absolutely fair enough. He's been with the team for a little while now. He's been in Formula 1 since 2018. He's driven for Haas a couple of times when Romain Grosjean was injured. It makes sense to step him into the team as soon as possible, but does he come with enough emphasis to, one, improve the team, and secondarily, does he come with enough money that now that your Alkali sponsorship is gone, that he can continue to keep the team going? And I'm not so sure. I think we're looking at other drivers down the grid. My first choice was Piastri. Just on a purely driver level, I think he is exceptional. I think he deserved a seat in Formula 1 this year and will get a seat in Formula 1 very, very soon. But Piastri's management have come out and said they will not be looking at a team like Haas for him in the future. Now, obviously, if Alpine come along and they say, actually, we want him to go there and we're offering lots and lots of money to Haas for that seat, will he then take it? Maybe that situation could change, but at the moment, Fittipaldi's management have said no. Then we have Hülkenberg, who's also on the grid and has been asked about it, but hasn't really spoken directly about Haas yet. Obviously, is also a reserve driver in Formula 1 at the moment, so is another option for them. A little bit more experience there. Then we have Giovinazzi, and the Giovinazzi one is interesting because they asked Giovinazzi's management a little bit about this. And currently in Formula E, really struggling in Formula E though, and I think warrants a place in Formula 1. I don't think he was that bad last season that he really warranted losing that seat in Alfa Romeo. Obviously, it came down to the money for him, but Alfa Romeo aren't connected to Ferrari in the same way that Haas actually are. And it'd be interesting to see, because Giovinazzi is still linked to that Ferrari seat and is technically a Ferrari junior, even though he's been very experienced in Formula 1 in the past couple of years, whether or not they would think about that connection with Ferrari and possibly be able to strike up a deal. Maybe Ferrari could pay a little bit of Giovinazzi's wages. Maybe Ferrari could give Haas a little bit of a deal on their engines or gearbox, or maybe they could take Giovinazzi and save Haas some money in the long term because they have that link to Ferrari. But that's just my first thoughts. And then after that, it's kind of, you're looking at those IndyCar guys. I said Romain Grosjean before, obviously, because he's in Haas, but he looks very, very comfortable and hasn't been asked at all, and the media hasn't chased him at all whatsoever. You've got the likes of Callum Ilott, who's just gone to IndyCar, looks fairly settled in there as well. Would he want to move back into Formula 1 right this second? I don't think so. I think Haas find themselves in a very, very tricky scenario. But that's just a little update for you guys on everything that has happened today. A very big swing in the Formula 1 news there. And I hope you're having a good day. I will see you tomorrow for a more pristine video and a little bit less rushed. But thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.